Hi, welcome back to another My Bourbon Journey review. My name is Scott. Today I thought I would do something a bit different. I'm going to do a 5 bourbon review. These are going to be all basically entry level bourbons, anywhere from 80 proof all the way up to as high as 100 proof. And again, I think these are all going to be great bourbons for people who are either just getting into it or someone looking for a daily sipper. But all of these are, good, solid bourbons, all readily available. Things you should be able to walk into just about any liquor store and find. So, one quick thing: a couple of these actually are store picks. So, the flavor of these may vary a bit based on which ones you pick. So, the Eagle Rare and the Elijah Craig are both store picks. But for the most part, the flavor profile is going to be just about equal to that. So some of these may vary a little bit, like I said. But let's go ahead and we'll get into this. So I think what I'm going to try to do is first start out with the lower proof, kind of work my way this way into the higher proof. And you can decide later on, after you maybe pick up one or two of these and see if it fits your kind of flavor profile. So first, we'll start out with the Basil Haydens. Again, this is an 80 proof bourbon or 40% ABV, so it is as low as it possibly can go to legally be considered bourbon. So I'm going to try to do a little bit of a visual in terms of showing you the color, and then we'll get into maybe a brief description of what it is and kind of go from there. So let's first start out with the Basil Hayden. And again, I'll just go down these real quick before I get into the review. So, Basil Hayden, this is a Jim Beam product. Again, 80 proof or 40% ABV. Second is going to be Evan Williams, the single barrel. These are all going to be different ages because they are individual or single barrels, and they're going to have different vintage dates, so they could vary a little bit. Again, since it is a single barrel, each one is going to have a different profile, but for the most part, these are all going to be, generally speaking, having the same type of profile from each bourbon. So, third will be the Eagle Rare, which is a Buffalo Trace product. This is a 90 proof bourbon. Again, this is a store pick, so the flavor of it could change a bit, but again, 90 proof, Eagle Rare. It is a little bit more difficult to find, but you should be able to get it just about anywhere. If you can't, ask around. Someone should be able to get you a bottle or two of this. The fourth one we have is Elijah Craig, which is a small batch produced bourbon. Something, again, that's readily available everywhere. Not going to be difficult to find at all. This is, I believe this is a 94 proof. Yep, 94 proof or a 47% ABV bourbon. And then finally, I threw this one in there. This is Four Roses, single barrel, 100 proof or 50% ABV. In the event that you're looking for something that's going to give you a little bit more kind of bang for your buck, spice, things along those lines. So I don't know necessarily how entry level it is. It's available everywhere. You can find it just about everywhere on the shelf. So from that standpoint, if it's something you want to give a try, go ahead and do so. It has some great flavor. We'll get into that here shortly. So first, let's start out with the Basil Haydens. We'll do this here a little bit, give you the color on this one. So again, nice light copper penny. This is a non-age stated bourbon. I'm not exactly sure how old this is, but I would imagine you're probably in the, generally speaking, 4 to 7 year range. That's typically for the non-age stated bourbons. You see most of them are in that kind of range. So let's go ahead and give this a nose. We'll see what we've got here. Yeah, so up front you get with this a little bit of light corn, a little bit of light vanilla, some caramel. This is a really typical bourbon in terms of what you would think from a flavor or a nosing standpoint in terms of what you're going to smell with a bourbon of this kind, especially low entry, no heat on this. So let's go ahead and we'll give this a taste and see what we get with that. So first with these, when you're going through all of these, if you decide that you want to go through all of these, or pick one or two, before you decide whether you like it, take a sip, allow it to kind of coat your mouth, your palate, and then wait a few seconds, take another sip. You'll get a better idea of the true flavor of that, because first you're kind of getting your mouth used to all of that. So we'll give it another taste and we'll get into the flavor profile of that. Yeah, so again, you've got something that you're gonna have a little bit of light corn, a little bit of caramel, some vanilla. This again is a typical bourbon, really easy to drink. If you're looking for something that has little to no heat, that's easy to sip on, this would be a great, again, entry-level bourbon. So, Basil Hayden, I would recommend that if it's something that you're just getting into, or just want something that's easy to sip on, that's not going to be overwhelming or anything like that. So, again, a very solid bourbon for the entry level of bourbon. So, second, we'll go to the Evan Williams, which is a Heaven Hill product. I don't know if I stated that before or not, but so this is Evan Williams single barrel. This is the 2008 vintage, which I've kind of burned through a little bit, so I apologize for that. And this one is almost 9 years old. So this was barreled on January 31st of 2008 and bottled on October 4th, 2016. So it's got some age to it. So that's that's kind of nice. And again, these are all something that's going to have a little bit of a different flavor profile as well. So get a couple different vintages if you can, see which ones you like, and go from there. So let's get into, again, the so this is, again, has a bit of the lighter. This might be a little bit darker than the Basil Hayden, you can see. So this has got a little bit more age to it, sitting in the barrels a little bit longer, maybe not a lot longer, but maybe a little. So we'll give this a nose. Let's see what we've got on this. Yeah, so up front, right away with this, you start to get a little bit more of the oak. Yeah, definitely some vanilla on this. You get a little bit of orange zest kind of to it as well, like a citrus note. So it's something that's a little bit sweeter. Something I think that would be, again, really easy to just sit back and sip on for a little while. Yeah, so you get that, that's really right up front. Even a little bit of a kind of a nutmeg tone to it as well, but oak, vanilla, a little bit of nutmeg. So let's give this a try. Cheers. So right up front with this one, you get hit with a pretty fair amount of actually butterscotch. I didn't get as much of that on the nose as I did the palate, but right away this had quite a bit of butterscotch. A little bit of vanilla comes back through on this. So yeah, this is again a very solid bourbon. So let's give this another try. See if we pull anything else out. Yeah, so a really nice oak undertone to this. Not overwhelming by any means, so it's not like chewing on a piece of wood or anything like that. You get that really nice spice to it. When I say the wood, you get that for sure. The citrus, the vanilla, the caramel. So this is, again, another typical characteristic of a really good bourbon. So this would be something I would highly recommend. It's something that I try to keep stocked at all times. Just really easy to sip on. So let's go to the third, and this is Eagle Rare. This is actually probably one of the bourbons I tend to lean to as a daily sipper, just because it's something that fits the profile that I like. It's sweet, so I like sweeter bourbons. Again, something that's really easy to sip on, fairly low proof. This is only 90 proof or 45% ABV. This is actually aged. They don't call it any longer a single barrel because I think there's a transfer that could still involve some of the bourbon from the prior barrel into the next. I don't think they actually switch it out to that standpoint, so they can't theoretically call them single barrels anymore. But for the most part, it still technically can be. So we'll go ahead. Let's do the nose, or excuse me, the sight on this one. So again, you can see this still has, about the same tone to this one as well. So, still that light copper penny. None of these are going to be overly, super dark. Nothing's going to be in that, 15, 20-year range. This, I believe, is going to be the oldest bourbon in all of these. So this is actually aged 10 years. So let's go ahead and give this a nose. Yeah, so right up front with this, with the Eagle Rare, one thing I always get with this is citrus. So I always get that on the nose with Eagle Rare. Right up front, you get a lot of that. Something, again, that, is going to be just a really easy sipper, and we'll get into that when we do the tasting here real soon. But again, if you can get this, I would highly recommend picking up a bottle or two, and just keep this always around. It's something that's really easy to sip on. So let's do the flavor profile on this. So again, something very sweet. This is really of the two so far, or of the three, this so far is the sweetest. To me, it's something I really enjoy. A little bit of oak. You get a lot of honey actually with this. The orange peel, that's the citrus part of it for me. But something that's really, really easy to just sip on. So I think it's really something that's going to be overly enjoyable for you if you prefer or like something that's on the sweeter side. There's not much or any heat to this at all. Again, something you can just sit back, sip on for a while, and just enjoy. So something, again, really, really easy. So let's go to the Elijah Craig. So this is a small batch. This, again, is going to be 94 proof or 47% alcohol. And again, you can see kind of some of the color on this. We'll do this here. So this seems to be, all of these are pretty close to the same. And I think according to the ages on this, they're supposed to be pulling barrels that are approximately 7 to 12 years old, I believe. So you've got a different mixture in terms of the small batch with this for what the blend is of this. And we don't know exactly. Small batch, again, as you'll see, can be kind of a difficult term because it can have all kinds of different variances to it. Small batch doesn't mean 2, 4, 5 barrels. I mean, it could technically be 50 barrels, 200 barrels. It could be any of that. So whatever their definition for small batch is, that's what theirs is. So let's go ahead and give this a nose, see what we get with this. Yeah, so again, something that's going to be another sweet bourbon, a little bit sweeter. Most of these are all going to have the tendency to want to be a little sweeter. The proof is relatively low, so you're not getting a ton of spice coming through on this, but a little bit with that. Yeah, so you get right up front with this, with just about all the Elijah Craig that I've had, is that sweetness. So you get more of the vanillas, the honeys, the caramel, something along those lines. So again, if that's fitting your profile, this is something I would highly recommend, and it's something I generally have on hand all the time. Something that's just, really easy to drink, and it's not going to be intimidating, overwhelming, any of that. And it's readily available just about anywhere you go. So let's give this, again, a little bit of a taste. Yeah, so again, very sweet, a little bit of oak, a lot of honey actually with this, a little bit of orange peel or orange zest. So you get a lot of that sweet kind of undertone to it as well. So Again, one I would highly recommend if you're just getting into things and want something that's going to be easy to drink, and it's not going to, give you that Kentucky hug like a lot of other high proof bourbons will. So now the fifth, this is going to be a Four Roses. This is going to be a 100 proof bourbon, or 50% ABV. Something that's going to be, I threw this in here just because, or in the event you wanted to try to switch it up a little bit and maybe get a little bit out of the comfort zone of the lower proof, sweeter bourbons. The Four Roses tends to be, for me, not quite as sweet, a little bit more spicy, a little more peppery, has a little bit more heat and everything to it. So it is something that's going to be maybe not so entry level, but still something I think if you're just getting into bourbon or whiskey, that it's still approachable. So I don't think this is going to be anything that's, super overwhelming or anything to you at all. So hopefully you'll give it a try, but let's go ahead. I'll show you the color on this. And as far as age goes on the Four Roses single barrel, I believe this is anywhere from 7 to 9 years old. That's what I've been told with most of these. So, we'll kind of let's do the appearance on this. So you can see most of these all have that kind of copper penny. This might be a little bit darker than most of the other ones, which would make a little bit of sense. So, but let's go ahead and give this a nose and we'll see what we have with this. Yeah, so right up front with this, you get a lot of the baking spice, which is typical of the Four Roses mash bill. So it's something I always seem to pick up is a lot of baking spice with that. A little bit of, again, you got a little bit of the caramel, but a lot of the baking spice, a little bit of oak, something that's just, again, you're not getting a lot of the viscosity to this. You're not burning your nose by inhaling this. None of these are going to be any of that. So this is all stuff that's going to, again, be very approachable. The Four Roses, I still think is going to be very approachable to you if you're just kind of getting into this. So I would highly recommend that as well. So let's give this a taste and see what we've got. So up front with this, like I was saying before, you're getting a slight bit more heat. After going through these first four, there's not much or any heat to any of them. You've got just a good flavor profile for all four of these. This, in terms of the palate, it wants to stay there a little bit longer. It's peppery, it's spicy, it has a really good flavor. So it's, again, something that I don't want to try to scare anybody into this or try to shock you with it, but again, it's something that's going to stick around a little bit longer. The finish is much longer with this than it is the other four. Something, again, that if, a little bit of heat, so right away after you kind of take it in, you get a little bit of that, heat that you normally will get from the starting to get to the higher proof bourbons. But again, nothing that's going to be in the, 115 to 130. Those are a whole different ball game. But this, again, I think is going to be something that I would highly recommend or suggest, at least try and give it a shot. I think it's, and again with this, I guess from a standpoint of entry level, if you want to bring down the proof a little bit or it had a little bit too much heat, maybe just a couple drops of water will help to bring the proof down, take away some of that heat, maybe make it a little bit more approachable. So again, something that's, readily available, an easy sipper, has a lot of flavor, good spice to it. So you can't go wrong with any of these. They're all different, in their own way. They all have each their own different flavor profile. So I would recommend, from my standpoint, any of these at all. So one other thing, if you like the t-shirt, which I hope you do, and I love it, go check out on Instagram a really awesome company. They go by at My Bourbon Shop on Instagram. I'll have the link below in my description to show where you can go and buy their shirts and their different other items. So they were awesome enough to send this over to me, so I greatly appreciate it. Again, they're at My Bourbon Shop on Instagram, and again, I'll have the link below to be able to go and check them out. So with that, hopefully everybody will subscribe. You can definitely hit the subscribe button that's just below. I appreciate any feedback. And again, if you have any questions, comments, please leave those, and we'll see you next time. Try to get another review here to you pretty soon. So again, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.